the trap inside your own mind. You think you have a thinking problem. You don't. You have a control problem. You replay conversations that already ended. You imagine scenarios that never happen. You analyze simple decisions like they carry life or death consequences. And the worst part is, this feels productive. It feels like you are preparing, improving, staying ahead. But you're not. You are stuck in a loop that tricks your brain into feeling active while your life stays paused. Researchers in cognitive psychology have observed that the brain is wired to simulate future outcomes as a way to protect you. But when this system goes unchecked, it stops being useful and starts becoming noise. What was meant to help you act starts preventing you from acting at all. That's why the more you think, the less clear things become. And here's the part no one tells you. Thinking more will not solve In fact, it makes it worse. Because every time you stay inside your head, you reinforce the habit of staying there. You are not stuck because you don't have answers. You are stuck because your mind never stops asking questions. But there is a way to break this, a simple daily reset that interrupts this loop, calms the noise, and gives you back control. Almost no one uses it, and once you see it, you won't be able to ignore what your mind has been doing to you this entire time. Why your brain won't stop, and why trying harder makes it worse. The more you try to stop your thoughts, the stronger they come back. Not because you are weak, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Studies in cognitive psychology show that when you try to suppress a thought, your brain activates a monitoring system to check if that thought is gone. And in doing that, it keeps bringing it back. You try not to think about it, and your mind keeps asking, is it gonna nah? What about now? What about now? That is why forcing control creates more noise. What most people call discipline here is actually resistance, and resistance amplifies attention. Whatever you resist, you feed. So every time you fight your thoughts, you are training your brain to keep them alive. This is where most people get trapped. They believe they need more control, more effort, more mental strength. So they push harder. They try to outthink the problem, and without realizing it, they are reinforcing the exact pattern that keeps them stuck. Researchers have observed that high performers do not try to control every thought. They control where their attention goes. That is a completely different skill. You are not supposed to win against your mind by force. You are supposed to stop giving energy to what keeps pulling you in. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The effort you are making right now to fix your overthinking might be the reason it does not stop. Once you understand this, you realize that the solution is not more effort. It is a different approach. And in the next part, you will see why your brain is tricking you into feeling productive while you are actually standing still. The illusion of productivity you're thinking, but not moving. Your brain is making you feel busy, but you are not moving. You sit there analyzing, planning, replaying, refining. It feels like progress. It feels like you are getting closer to the right decision. But in reality, nothing changes. No action, no result, no movement. Researchers in behavioral psychology explain that the brain rewards anticipation more than execution. When you think about solving a problem, your brain gives you a small sense of progress, as if you are already doing something useful. That feeling is enough to keep you stuck in the loop. So, you keep thinking, not because it helps, but because it feels like it helps. You plan the perfect way to start. You imagine every possible outcome. You rehearse conversations that may never happen. And all of that creates the illusion that you are preparing yourself. But preparation without action is just delay. This is where overthinking becomes dangerous. It disguises itself as intelligence. It convinces you that you are being careful, strategic, responsible. But what it is really doing is keeping you in a safe mental space where nothing is at risk. Because action creates uncertainty. Thinking creates control. And your brain prefers control. That is why you feel stuck. Not because you lack clarity, but because your mind is giving you a false sense of progress while avoiding real movement. Once you see this, It becomes impossible to ignore, because you realize that every minute spent inside your head is a minute your life is not moving forward. And if this is happening without you noticing, there is something even deeper controlling the entire process, the hidden loop, keeping you stuck. There is a pattern running in the background of your mind. You don't see it, but you feel it every day. A thought appears. You start analyzing it. That creates tension. The tension makes you think more. The more you think, the more tired you feel. And that exhaustion lowers your ability to act. So, you stay still. And because you stay still, your brain keeps generating more thoughts to try to solve what was never solved. Thought leads to anxiety. Anxiety leads to more thinking. More thinking leads to paralysis. And paralysis feeds the cycle again. Researchers studying mental patterns have observed that the brain does not need a real problem to activate this loop. It only needs uncertainty. The moment something is not fully resolved, your mind keeps returning to it, trying to close the gap. But here is the problem. Overthinking does not close the gap. It expands Italiano. Every time you revisit the same thought without action, you make it feel bigger, more complex, more important than it actually is. What started as a simple decision becomes a mental weight that follows you everywhere. That is why you feel drained, even when you did nothing physical. Your brain has been running in circles all day, and the most dangerous part is that this loop becomes automatic. You stop choosing to think. Thinking starts choosing you. If you do not interrupt this cycle, it strengthens. It becomes your default state. And over time, you start believing that this is just who you are. But it is not. It is a pattern, and patterns can be broken. In the next part, you will understand why trying to think your way out of this only makes the cycle stronger. Why clarity doesn't come from thinking more. You believe that if you think long enough, clarity will appear. It won't. The brain does not create clarity through accumulation. It creates clarity through reduction. The more noise you add, the harder it becomes to see what actually matters. Researchers studying attention have observed that when the mind is overloaded, it loses the ability to prioritize. Everything starts to feel equally important. Small decisions feel heavy. Simple choices feel complex. And the more you analyze, the more distorted your perception becomes. That is why thinking more does not lead to better answers. It leads to more confusion. Imagine a glass of water filled with dirt. If you keep shaking it, the water stays cloudy. No matter how hard you try to see through it, everything remains unclear. But the moment you stop moving it, the dirt settles. The clarity was always there. It just needed stillness. Your mind works the same way. Clarity is not something you force. It is something that appears when you remove interference. But most people do the opposite. They try to solve mental noise with more mental activity. They keep shaking the glass, hoping it will somehow become clear. It never does. Specialists in cognitive performance explain that high-level thinking requires space, not more effort, not more pressure, not more control. Space. And here is where everything starts to change. Because if clarity comes from reducing noise, then the solution to overthinking is not to think better. It is to think less, in the right way. And in the next part, you are going to see the exact method that allows you to do that. Step by step, every single day. The daily reset protocol. The simple routine that changes everything. You don't fix overthinking by waiting for your mind to calm down. You fix it by installing a system that resets it every single day. Researchers in behavioral neuroscience have observed that the brain does not change through intention. It changes through repetition. What you do daily becomes your default. That means if you don't have a structure to interrupt the noise, your mind will keep running the same patterns on autopilot. This is where most people fail. They look for a breakthrough moment, a sudden clarity, a perfect mindset. But control is not an event. It is a process. And the process you are about to see is simple on purpose, because complexity creates resistance. And resistance brings you back to This routine works by targeting the problem from different angles. It interrupts the loop, clears mental overload, forces action, and retrains your attention. Each step removes a layer of noise that keeps your mind stuck. Specialists in performance and focus explain that when you reduce internal noise and direct your attention with intention, your brain naturally shifts from reaction to control. You stop being pulled by thoughts and start deciding where your mind goes. That is the difference between being trapped and being in control. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more discipline. You need a system that works even when you don't feel like Italiano. And once this system becomes part of your day, something unexpected happens. Your mind stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a tool. Now it's time to break this down into action, because if you don't interrupt the pattern, nothing changes. And the first step is simpler than you think, but most people never do it. Step 1. Interrupt the loop, mental pattern break. You don't calm the mind by negotiating with it. You break the pattern. The moment you notice yourself trapped in repetitive thinking, you need to interrupt it immediately. Not later. Not when you feel ready. Right there, researchers in behavioral science have observed that patterns lose strength when they are interrupted early. The longer you stay inside the loop, the harder it becomes to get out. That is why speed matters more than perfection. The mistake most people make is trying to resolve the thought. They sit there trying to understand it, fix it, finish it, but that keeps them inside the loop. The goal is not to solve the thought. The goal is to stop feeding it. There are simple ways to do this. Change your physical state. Stand up, walk, shift your environment. Your brain is strongly connected to your body, and movement breaks mental continuity. Another approach is to label what is happening. Say it clearly in your mind. This is overthinking, not reality. This creates distance between you and the thought. Specialists in cognitive control explain that when you name a pattern, you reduce its emotional intensity. You stop being inside it and start observing it. And that changes everything. Because once you step out of the loop, even for a few seconds, you weaken Italiano. You teach your brain that this pattern does not control you anymore. This is not about feeling better. It is about taking control in real time. And once you interrupt the loop, you create space. Space that needs to be used correctly. Because if you leave it empty, the thoughts will come back. That is why the next step is critical. You need to get everything out of your head before it pulls you back in. Digite uma para escrever o próximo tópico, ou digite as alterações que deseja. Step 2. Externalize your mind. Get it out of your head. Your mind is not designed to store and organize everything at the same time. When you keep thoughts trapped inside your head, they grow, distort, and feel more important than they really are. That is why you need to get them out. Researchers studying cognitive load have observed that the brain performs better when information is externalized. When you write things down, you reduce internal pressure and free up mental space. What felt overwhelming inside your head becomes structured and manageable outside of it. But here is where most people get it wrong. They try to organize their thoughts perfectly. They try to make sense of everything before writing it down. That defeats the purpose. The goal is not clarity at first. The goal is release. You take everything that is looping in your mind and you put it on paper or on a screen. No filter, no structure, no judgment. Just transfer. Specialists in performance explain that once thoughts are externalized, the brain stops recycling them. It no longer needs to keep reminding you because it knows the information is stored somewhere else. That alone reduces a massive amount of noise. And something interesting happens. When you see your thoughts in front of you, many of them lose strength. What felt complex becomes simple. What felt urgent becomes optional. Because inside your head, everything feels bigger. Outside, it becomes real. This is how you stop your mind from holding you hostage. But there is still one problem. Even after clearing the noise, if you don't move, the cycle starts again. That is why the next step is not about thinking better. It is about acting, even when you don't feel ready. Digite uma para escrever o próximo tópico ou digite as alterações que deseja. Step 3. Force decision, action, kill the loop, with movement. At some point thinking has to end and movement has to begin. If it doesn't, the loop restarts. The brain craves closure. When something is left open, it keeps pulling your attention back to it. That is why unfinished decisions keep showing up in your mind. Not because they are important, but because they are incomplete. Researchers in behavioral psychology have observed that action creates resolution faster than analysis. The moment you decide and move, the mental tension drops. The loop loses fuel. That is why waiting to feel ready is a trap. You will not feel ready, and if you wait for that feeling, you stay stuck. The strategy here is simple and uncomfortable. You force a decision with the information you have now, and you take immediate action, even if it is small. Send the message. Start the task. Make the call. Take the first step before your mind has time to create another scenario. Specialists in performance explain that action reduces uncertainty in real time. While thinking expands possibilities, action collapses them. It turns unknown into known. And once something becomes real, your brain stops obsessing over it. This is how you break the cycle, not by finding the perfect answer, but by creating movement that makes the answer irrelevant. Because clarity is not something you find before action. It is something that appears because of action. And once you start moving, something else becomes clear. Your biggest problem was never your thoughts. It was your attention being pulled in every direction. That is what you are going to take control of next. Step 4. Train your attention daily. Rewire your mind. Control over your mind does not happen in a single moment. It happens through repetition, through daily training. The brain builds habits based on what you practice, not what you intend. That means if you leave your attention scattered, your default becomes distraction. If you train it, your default becomes focus. Researchers in cognitive neuroscience have observed that even small, consistent attention exercises create measurable changes in brain networks responsible for control and awareness. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive to intrusive thoughts, and overthinking starts losing power. The key is consistency, not intensity. 10 minutes every day of focused attention, mindful breathing, or deliberate work on a single task is more effective than sporadic hours of forced concentration. Your mind learns by doing, not by planning to do. Specialists explain that attention is like a muscle. If you never exercise it, it weakens. If you train it daily, it becomes strong enough to resist distractions and to direct your thoughts instead of being dragged by them. Once you integrate this practice into your routine, your mind stops running on autopilot. You choose where to focus, when to think, and when to act. Overthinking becomes optional, not automatic. Clarity and control become your new normal. And once your attention is trained, every step you take from decision-making to action becomes faster, sharper, and less burdened by mental noise. Next, you will see what happens when all these steps come together, and how your life changes when your mind finally obeys you instead of the other way around. The moment everything changes, what happens when you apply this? Imagine waking up, and your mind is quiet. Thoughts still appear, but they no longer control you. Decisions come naturally. Small actions build momentum without resistance. Anxiety doesn't rule your day because you have a system that intercepts it before it grows. Researchers studying high performers found that those who practice structured mental resets daily experience faster decision-making, improved clarity, and sustained focus. Your brain stops overreacting to every possibility and starts responding to what actually matters. This is the point where overthinking loses power. Your attention is no longer scattered. Your thoughts are manageable, and your actions are decisive. You stop feeling trapped inside your head because you finally occupy the position of control. The difference is striking. Tasks that used to feel heavy now feel actionable. Conversations that used to replay endlessly in your mind now pass without drama. You operate from a place of calm authority, not reactive stress. When these steps are applied consistently, life shifts. You stop being a passenger in your own mind. You start steering it. The uncertainty that once paralyzed you becomes fuel for purposeful action. And the truth is clear. Your mind is a tool, not a tyrant. Once you learn how to use it daily, everything changes not because the world changes, but because the way you perceive and respond to it does. Why most people will never escape this. Most people never break free from overthinking, not because they lack intelligence or skill, but because they refuse to act differently. They cling to the illusion that thinking harder will solve the problem, and they keep reinforcing the same loops that trap them. Behavioral scientists have observed that the human brain is wired to resist change. Comfort lies in predictability. Even if that predictability is mental chaos, breaking free requires choosing discomfort over familiarity, action over analysis. That is why most people stay stuck. You see it every day. People rehearse conversations, replay past mistakes, overanalyze options, and then tell themselves they are being careful. Meanwhile, life passes them by. Their thoughts become a cage disguised as preparation. The uncomfortable truth is this: the difference between those who escape and those who stay trapped is execution. It's not insight, it's doing. It's not planning, it's acting. You must interrupt, externalize, decide, move, and train your attention consistently. And while the majority hesitates, you now know the steps. You now have the method. But knowing alone isn't enough. Execution is the gatekeeper. This is your advantage. Most will remain prisoners of their own mind. You have the choice to step out. The final chapter will show why control is not a one-time achievement, but a daily decision. Control is a daily decision. The problem was never thinking too much. The problem was not knowing how to stop. Overthinking is a pattern, not a trait, and patterns can be changed, but only through deliberate action repeated daily. Control over your mind is not talent. It is a practice, a habit, a decision you make every single day. You cannot rely on motivation, on willpower, or on luck. You must use the system, follow the steps, and train your attention until your brain obeys rather than commands. Once you do, your mind stops running loops that waste energy and create anxiety. Decisions become easier. Actions become faster. Thoughts no longer dominate your day, they serve your day. And here is the final truth. Every minute you spend trapped in your own thoughts is a minute your life is not moving forward. You have the power to change that, but only if you act daily, without negotiation, without delay. Remember this: either you control your mind or it controls you. The choice is yours.